Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Watang Yu. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to develop a foundation in the path to enlightenment and understanding how to get to this enlightened mental state that the Buddha shared. The enlightened mental state is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind in the enlightened mental state no longer experiences any discontent feelings. By the time you train your mind to get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind. Even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the mind. Where right now you probably get annoyed or frustrated, and you might become bitter and harsh and hostile with other people in your life. And in this situation, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. You might actually think that it's other people that are causing you to be angry or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. But in reality, it's your own mind that's causing this. And you can understand this through the teachings of the Buddha, what's actually causing these feelings so that you can actually eliminate them. And the path to enlightenment is to eliminate the causes and conditions within your own mind that's producing these feelings through training of your mind. The teachings of the Buddha don't contain anything that you should believe. The teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, examining, and investigating his teachings now in this life. You're reflecting on those teachings now in this life in order to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And this is what's going to transform your mind. You're essentially uprooting pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and as you use his tools and techniques to uproot these, this is where the mind starts performing more optimally. Not only will you have eliminated your discontent feelings, but your mind will be focused. You'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because those pollutions being in your mind, it's going to hinder you from having those qualities of mind. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships will really be blossoming, where right now you might have some relationships that you're really challenged in. You might have bitterness and harshness and hostility in those relationships, and you might be blaming the other person and thinking that they're the ones who are causing you to function that way, but this isn't actually true. You can get to a point where you don't function that way in your relationships, and your relationships can really blossom. You'll get to the point where you don't even have a bad mood any longer, and again, this comes through training of the mind. When we get together each Sunday and Wednesday, I'm helping students to understand this training. And I do that here at the temple, and I also live stream as well. So welcome to anyone who's joining us online. What I planned for today is normally I guide you in a meditation and then open up to any and all questions that you have. In today's class, we were going to be guiding you in loving kindness meditation, which is to help you eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will, and even the slightest frustration, irritation, or annoyance in the mind. You can even eliminate the negative self-talk within your own mind, where you might be degrading and diminishing yourself and have this inner dialogue where you're kind of knocking yourself down. And if this is the case, you can actually eliminate this. You can actually eliminate the dislike that you have for other people. Sometimes when you have certain people in your life that you like and certain people that you dislike, you might think that that dislike is coming from the other person, when in reality it's coming from your own mind, because you have certain expectations, you have certain wants, you want this person to be a certain way, and you have all these criteria that if these people meet these criteria, then you will like them. But if people don't meet your conditions, if they don't meet your expectations, then you will think in your mind that you dislike this person. But you can eliminate this, understanding that everybody's unique, everybody's different, not everybody's going to function in the way that your mind is expecting them to function. And you can have a situation where you have love and kindness for all beings. And this meditation is one of the ways that's going to help you to be able to move your mind to that point where you can have love and kindness for every single being around you. So normally I do just guide students, and then I actually open up for questions. But what I thought I would do today is actually teach you loving kindness meditation, walking you through helping you understand what loving kindness meditation is, and then I'm going to guide you in a loving kindness meditation session. So as I go today and I share the teachings of the Buddha with you on loving kindness meditation, you're welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. Here at the temple, if you'd like to ask questions, we have microphones in the white bowl there. If you could just get a microphone, press the gray button, you'll see the lights will come on. Just hold that up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, the people online won't be able to hear you. And then for anybody who's online, if you'd like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comments section, and I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So I'm just going to switch over to some visual aids here for everyone who's online to be able to see what it is I'm sharing with you guys, because as I mentioned, this topic of loving kindness meditation is going to help you completely transform your mind away from the anger, hatred, ill will, and all those lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even getting rid of that negative self-talk within your own mind. You don't need to live with this. You can actually transform your mind away from it. So first, let me just help you understand that there's 4 different types of meditations that the Buddha taught. The first one that you're usually learning is something called breathing mindfulness meditation. And I've taught this many times and I continue to teach it. And there's places where I've recorded it, like on YouTube or Facebook or on our podcast. And you can even attend regular classes here and you'll eventually learn this particular meditation. This is actually helping you to eliminate the unwholesome quality of craving, desire, attachment. This is the longing. This is the yearning. This is the mind wanting things to be a certain way, where the mind has this almost unquenchable thirst, thinking that something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So your mind might chase and chase and chase and chase. A craving, desire, attachment is a longing, yearning within your own mind. If you've ever been in the mall and you were like, oh, a new pair of shoes. Yes, I got to have those. Oh, they're going to look so great on my feet. I can't wait to get those shoes, right? And if you go into the store and they have your size, you're so happy and excited. Yes, I got my new shoes. Oh, they're going to look so great. But now if you go into the store and they don't have your shoes, you're frustrated. You're angry, you're irritated. And what's causing that is the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the wanting things to be a certain way. If your bank account balance is up here, you might get so happy and so excited. But then when it goes down here, you get frustrated or agitated or annoyed. This is because of the mind's longing, yearning, the craving for permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. And when the mind gets what it wants, you get happy or excited. But when the mind doesn't get what it wants, you get angry or sad or frustrated. And because you can't always get what you want, your mind's going to oftentimes end up in these painful feelings, where you feel stress and anxiety and other things like this. But you can eradicate this from the mind. Breathing mindfulness meditation is one of the ways to do that, but there's other techniques and other teachings that you need besides this meditation. This meditation is helping you to cultivate the wholesome qualities of mindfulness or awareness of mind, so you can be aware when the mind is longing, yearning in your day-to-day life, and then you can restrain it and you can pull it back, right? Because if I go to the store and I get so happy and excited about those new shoes and I just can't wait to get them on my feet, you can say, hold on a second. I've got 30 pairs of shoes at home. What is one more pair of shoes going to do for me? And you can restrain the mind. But if you don't have mindfulness and awareness of mind and see that your mind is longing, yearning, you're not going to be able to do that. So you'll be able to cultivate the mindfulness or awareness of mind, and you'll be able to cultivate concentration or focus, because oftentimes the mind in the unenlightened state doesn't have focus or concentration because the mind's bouncing around from thing to thing to thing to thing. You might find it's very challenging to stay focused on one particular thing. But with developing your mind with breathing mindfulness meditation, you can experience the focus and concentration of the mind. So this is the first meditation that you're usually learning, and you're developing that over the course of multiple weeks and months and years. You're developing this meditation because it's going to help train your mind to let go, because that craving, desire, attachment, where the mind's craving permanence, the mind doesn't want to let go. And as long as you're holding on and not getting what you want, you're going to experience the painful feelings. Think back to the boyfriend or girlfriend that you had. When you first got together, you were probably so happy and so excited when you had this person in your life. They were showing you affection. You were going out to dinner and the movies. You were taking nice walks in the park, having great conversations. Maybe you were having intimate contact. Wow, things just couldn't have been better at the beginning because you guys didn't have expectations of each other. But then over time, you started having all these expectations of them, and they couldn't meet those expectations. And they started having expectations of you. And all of a sudden, you guys were so angry or frustrated with each other, you broke up. And then your mind might have been lonely or bored, or you might have been missing this person. This is because your mind was holding on. It was craving permanence. It wasn't the love that was causing those painful feelings. Because what you're going to hear today is love doesn't cause painful feelings. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. But as long as your mind is holding on and craving permanence, wanting people, longing, yearning for people to be permanent in your life, you live in an impermanent world. People have been coming and going in and out of your life your entire life, and they will continue to do that for the rest of your life. But as long as you hold on and you're craving permanence, when people are coming, going in and out of your life, you'll struggle and you'll have difficulties because your mind has this craving, this desire, this longing, yearning, this wanting things to be permanent. So this meditation will help you train your mind to let go. And you can learn how to have relationships where you love people and you care for people, but you don't cling to them and hold on to them, wanting them to be permanent, putting expectations on other people and wanting them to be a certain way. Because when the mind has certain cravings, desires, attachments in your mind, when you get those fulfilled, you'll get happy and excited or elated. You'll get pleasant feelings. But when you're not getting what you want, that's where your mind will get the painful feelings. And when you're experiencing painful feelings, you will typically associate those to something external, and you will push these people away, or you will push the situation away. You might have pushed friends or family members away out of your life, thinking that that's going to solve your problem. But you can see that it hasn't solved your problem because you still get annoyed. You still get frustrated. You still get agitated. It's only a matter of time. So pushing people away out of your life doesn't fix the problem. Or what you might be doing is when you're associating these painful feelings to something external, you might be being bitter and harsh and hostile through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring. Do things my way. The mind's wanting to get those cravings fulfilled. And you might be bitter, harsh, and hostile to people. And now you're damaging your relationships. And people might choose to leave out of your life because of this. Or you might be putting your expectations on people, trying to control them and pressure them to do things your way. Because the mind thinks if I can just get what I want, everything will be perfect. So as long as the mind doesn't understand that it's causing its own discontent feelings, it will continue to do this. It will continue to push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and put your expectations on people. And as long as you're doing this, you can't live harmoniously with all people. So the first thing you need to understand is that it's your own mind that's causing these painful feelings, and you can independently verify this. Because as I mentioned, nothing about the teachings of the Buddha is based in belief. So don't believe what I'm sharing with you here. Don't believe anything that I ever say. Look at your own life. Look at situations where you're upset or angry or frustrated. Might have been this morning, might have been yesterday, might have been last week. Look at that situation. There was something your mind wanted. You were longing, yearning for it. And if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, you got frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Now, at that time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else for what you were experiencing, because that's what the unenlightened mind typically does. But look at that situation with these fresh eyes, with this new wisdom. What was it that your mind was longing and yearning for? And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you were frustrated or agitated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. You should be able to see see this for yourself. And if you can't see it, let me know. You can explain to me the situation and I will help you to be able to see it. Because I've had plenty of students over the years that are not able to see this, right? Somebody one time asked me, they said, David, I went to work the other day and my house looked beautiful. And when I came home from work, my wife had this craft project all over the house. The house was a mess and I got frustrated. How did my mind cause this? I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. Didn't she cause me to be frustrated? Nope, that's not what caused this person to be frustrated. What caused them to be frustrated is that a craving for permanence. They wanted their house to look a certain way permanently. And when they went to work, they had the expectation that when they came home, the house was going to look exactly the same way. But nothing around you is permanent. You live in an impermanent world. The weather is constantly changing. This physical body is constantly changing. Your bank account is constantly changing. Your friends are constantly changing, coming in and out of your life. Your job and occupation is constantly changing. There's nothing in your life that is permanent. But yet the mind craves for things to be permanent. So this individual was craving, desiring for their house to look a certain way permanently. And it's just not possible. So this is what caused their mind to be discontent. And then when they got that anger, that frustration, they then became unskillful with their life partner. And now they're damaging their relationship. So there's a better way to live life. You can transform your mind. And that's what the Buddha taught, is this better way of life. He's not teaching rules or commandments or beliefs or opinions or views. He's showing you the way. He's showing you the path of how to transform your mind so that you can experience the peace and the joy where you come home and you just understand, of course my house looks different because of impermanence. But you know what? This way that it looks now, that is impermanent too. Because wife is going to put this away at some point, and I can even help her to put it away, right? It's going to be looking a different way at some point. It's not permanent, right? So the craving, desire, attachment is the cause of all your discontent feelings. So this first meditation is helping you to eliminate that. And again, you need other things besides this meditation, but this is the first one. Then when that anger is arising, as I mentioned to you, the mind can become unskillful, where it can push relationships away or push a situation away. It can become bitter, harsh, and hostile, and it can put expectations on people. This is the unskillfulness that the unenlightened mind has when that anger is arising. And that's coming from the lack of wisdom to realize that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because as long as you believe that it's something external that's causing these feelings, you'll keep trying to fix the external world. You'll keep trying to push people away, be bitter, harsh, or hostile, put expectations on people. You might feel like you need to change the world in order to experience peace. All you need to do is change your own mind. When you change your mind and transform your mind, that's what's going to produce the peace. So when you understand that your anger is being caused by your own mind, you realize that it's super unwise to ever be bitter and harsh and hostile towards others, because it's just damaging your relationships. But you still need to knock down that cravings, desires, attachments, and you need to knock down this anger. And that's where the loving kindness meditation comes in. It helps you to eliminate the anger, hatred, and ill will, and even the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike towards another being, where you don't have this dislike towards others, because that's just coming from your own mind as well. You can get to the point where you have love and kindness for everyone. And this meditation is going to help you to do that, because it's going to help you to cultivate loving kindness for all beings. So here's what loving kindness is. Loving kindness is active goodwill towards all beings without judgment. It's a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. What I mean here when I say active goodwill towards all beings without judgment is that sometimes you might be taught, don't respect others until they respect you. Sometimes people learn this and they're taught this. Well, if everybody was doing this, nobody would be respecting anybody, because it's like, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. And you're like, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. Okay, so nobody is respecting anybody, right? So if you did that with your loving kindness, where it was like, hey, I'm not going to be loving and kind with you until you're loving and kind with me, nobody's being loving and kind with anybody, right? So you're going to need to break through that anger, that hatred and ill will, and realize that it's wise to be loving and kind. As long as you have anger and bitterness and harshness in your own mind, you're just harming your own mind. Sometimes people think that they're getting back at the other person by holding on to their resentment or by holding on to a grudge, but you're not getting back at that person. You're only harming your own mind. What you're doing is you're essentially holding on to a hot coal, trying to burn somebody else. You can't burn somebody else by holding on to a hot coal. So if you're holding on to bitterness and resentment and the irritation and the frustration and the anger, you're just trying to burn somebody else. But in reality, it's your own mind that's getting burned. So you would like to practice this active goodwill, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, without judgment, without judging other people and wanting them to be a certain way. Just realize that it's wise to be loving and kind. And not everyone's going to be loving and kind with you, because if they were, that would be permanence. Your mind might expect everyone to be loving and kind with you. But right now, you can't be loving and kind with everyone else. There are certain people in your life that you're not loving and kind with, but you can get to the point where you are loving and kind with every single person. And this meditation will help you to do this. But you're going to need to get rid of your expectation, if you have that everyone will be loving and kind with you. Because there's beings in this world that are really struggling, and they're going to sometimes be bitter and harsh and hostile and aggressive, but you can just walk away from that. You don't need to have this anger and frustration just because you're not getting what you want or what you expect, because not everyone's going to be loving and kind with you. Even though you're loving and kind, not everyone's going to be loving and kind with you. But you can get to a point where probably in about 99.9999% of the situations, everybody's loving and kind with you. But even when you're enlightened, there's going to be the rare occasion where someone might be bitter and harsh and hostile with you. But your mind won't be affected by that, because you'll understand that you don't have craving, desire, attachment in your mind. You won't have this longing, yearning, and this expectation that everyone will be a certain way. And you just understand that their anger is being caused by them. Their anger isn't being caused by you. No matter how many people blame you for their anger and their frustration, you're not causing their anger and frustration. Their own mind is causing that. So when someone's being bitter and harsh and hostile with you, you can just walk away and understand that it's their own mind that's causing that. And this is part of the loving kindness, is having this genuine interest in seeing this being be well. You can't fix somebody else's anger. Sometimes people think that they need to fix this other person. You're not causing their anger, so therefore you can't stop them from being angry. Only they can stop their own mind from being angry. They have to choose to let go of that craving, that desire, that longing, yearning, whatever it is in their mind that they're wanting. You're going to need, or they're going to need to let that go. And you can't do that for them. Their mind has to be able and be willing to do that itself. But you can eliminate your anger. And that's what loving kindness is going to help you to do. It's the antidote or the remedy for anger, hatred, ill will. And it'll help you eliminate this harshness, bitterness, hostility, and this resentment of the mind. This loving kindness is part of what's referred to as the Brahma Viharas. These are 4 healthy mental states that you need to cultivate in order to make your way to enlightenment, among other things as well. It's loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. These are 4 healthy mental states that an individual needs to cultivate in order to make their way to enlightenment, because they remedy certain unwholesome qualities within your own mind. They will help you to arise certain wholesome qualities. And this is something that I teach at different times. In terms of the teachings of the Buddha, in what he taught on loving kindness, he's got this core central teaching called the Eightfold Path that you would need to learn inside and out, backwards and forwards, in order to make your way to enlightenment. And that's where a student will typically start with their journey to enlightenment. But because this is a core central teaching, all of his other teachings plug into it. And you can see where his teachings plug into it. So this loving kindness meditation and cultivating the mind to have loving kindness, it plugs into the Eightfold Path in these specific places. There's a place called right intention. This is the second factor or the second step on the Eightfold Path, where the Buddha is teaching you to cultivate the thinking or the thoughts of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. You need to be able to cultivate this in the mind in order to make your way to enlightenment, among other things. What the intention of renunciation is where you have the willingness to let go and give up your false beliefs, your false opinions, your false views, and your unwholesomeness. There's certain unwholesome things that you're doing right now that you're going to need to let go of. There's certain false beliefs and opinions that you have right now that you're going to need to let go of. If you experience anger, frustration, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, all these things, there's certain false beliefs that your mind has because you haven't fully awoke to the wisdom of the path to enlightenment, and that's why those feelings are being experienced. One of the first false beliefs that you're going to need to eliminate from your mind is that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated. As long as you hold on to this false belief, you will always be angry because it's not other people that are causing this for you. But with the teachings of the Buddha, you're not bringing in new beliefs in order to get rid of your other beliefs. That's not the way this works. What you're doing is you're bringing in wisdom. You're able to independently verify his teachings. And as you bring in this wisdom and you see that it conflicts with what you currently believe, you need to let that go and bring in this wisdom. Because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. And as long as you're believing things, you're not going to know the truth, and you're not going to have wisdom to understand the world around you. And that's where you'll struggle and have difficulties when you don't understand the natural laws around you. So with the intention of renunciation, you're training your mind to let go of its false beliefs, its false opinions, its false views. You're training the mind to let go of its unwholesomeness. There's certain unwholesome things that you're going to need to let go of, because as long as you hold on to any of those things, you're not going to be able to experience the peace and the joy of the enlightened mind. Notice here where he says the intention of non-ill will. This needs to be cultivated in the mind to make your way to enlightenment. Non-ill will is goodwill, right? In English, when you have a double negative, it's a positive. So non-ill will means goodwill. So you're going to need to cultivate the intention or the thinking or the thought of goodwill in your mind. So it's loving kindness meditation that's going to help you to do that. And then there's the intention of harmlessness, where you cultivate the thinking or the thought or the intention of being disinterested in causing harm to others, where you're incapable or disinterested in causing harm to others. As long as your mind wants to cause harm to others and you put that out through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, that harm is going to come back to you. So you would like to cultivate the intention or the thinking or the thought of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Then when you learn the right speech of the Eightfold Path and you go deeper into the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, the Buddha gives you guidance on the natural laws of how it would be wise to speak with other people. Because if you're speaking with people in unwise ways, there's the potential that this conversation is going to end in an unwholesome way. So he teaches you to speak at the proper time, what you say is true, that it's gentle, that it's beneficial, and it's with a mind of loving kindness. And this is something that I go into a lot of detail with in all of our foundational courses and classes and programs. Well, here I'm just going to hone in on this 5th factor of speaking with a mind of loving kindness. The opposite of this is if you spoke with a mind of inner hate, your conversations aren't going to go well. And again, these teachings aren't about belief. You can look at your own life and you can see in situations where you have spoken with inner hate, the conversations did not go well. Either the other person was speaking with inner hate or you were speaking with inner hate, and you can see that the conversation didn't go well. But when you can cultivate loving kindness in your mind and your conversations can be emanating with loving kindness, now you'll be able to see that all your relationships will go wonderfully for you. But it's going to take you time to clear out these unwholesome and unwise decisions that you've made in the past, because there's certain decisions that you made in the past where you've been bitter and harsh and hostile. So it's not like if you go out the door today and you start being loving and kind that everyone's going to instantly be loving and kind with you. You're going to need to slowly transform your mind. And you're going to need to speak with loving kindness for an extended period of time so that more and more people realize that that's the way you speak. But if you have relationships where you're bitter, harsh, and hostile, you can see that those people speak to you in exactly the same way, right? Because what you put out, that's what's coming back to you. So you can transform your mind where you are cultivating this loving kindness, and now you're speaking with loving kindness. So here, the Buddha is sharing some words here that I'll share with you. Before this, he was talking about the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, and he was encouraging his students to speak at the proper time, what they say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness. And then he was reminding them that in some situations, other people are going to speak to you in an untimely way. They're going to speak to you with falsehoods. They're going to speak to you harshly. They're going to speak to you unbeneficially. And they're going to speak to you with a mind of loving, or a mind of inner hate. And he's saying, when people speak to you in this way, in a way that's untimely, untrue, harsh, unbeneficial, and with a mind of inner hate, he says, herein, monks, you should train thus. Our minds will remain unaffected. Right? You can train your mind to be unaffected by other people's speech and actions. But right now, you probably have a hard time with that. But you can train your mind to be unaffected. And we shall utter no evil words. We shall reside compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate. We shall reside enveloping that person with a mind filled with loving kindness. And starting with him, we shall envelop the all-encompassing world with a mind filled with loving kindness, abundant, joyful, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. That is how you should train monks. So if you would like to get to the point where when people talk to you bitter and harsh ways, your mind is unaffected, you're going to need to cultivate this loving kindness in your mind. You're going to need to permeate the loving kindness in your mind. And the way you do that is through loving kindness meditation. Here's some more teachings from the Buddha on loving kindness. This first one, he's actually talking to his son, Rahula. Sometimes people think that the Buddha left from his family and he never actually came back. This isn't actually true. The Buddha actually came back to where his family was, and his son, his wife, his mother, his cousins, and brother-in-laws, people like this, were ordaining with him and learning with him, and he was teaching them. And here's a teaching where he was teaching his son, Rahula. He says to his son, Rahula, develop meditation on loving kindness. For when you develop meditation on loving kindness, any ill will be abandoned. This is the way a Buddha speaks. This is the way a Buddha teaches. You don't need to interpret their words. You don't need to figure out what they're saying. Not, one person has one impression, another person has another impression. He's saying it very clearly. He's saying, if you would like to eliminate and abandon your anger, hatred, and ill will, it's loving kindness meditation that's going to do that for you. You can see it plain as day in his own words. Then here he says, loving kindness should be developed to abandon ill will, right? So you're going to need to not only practice loving kindness meditation, but in your day-to-day life, you're going to need to practice through your intentions, your speech, and your actions to be loving and kind. Even though you can't do this, if you spent 23 hours a day doing loving kindness meditation, and then you went outside for an hour and you were bitter and harsh and hostile with animosity, your mind's not anywhere close to enlightenment, right? You're not actually practicing loving kindness on a day-to-day life. So not only do you need to cultivate the mind with loving kindness through meditation, but you're going to need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And that's where the real transformation is occurring. Sure, the meditation is important. You're going to need that. But where you put this into practice is where you go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. So one of the ways you can think of loving kindness meditation is it's kind of like filling up your gas tank, and then you go out into the world and you're loving and kind. And now you'll see more and more as you're being loving and kind that you'll see that is what's coming back to you. But you shouldn't be practicing loving kindness because that's what you want and that's what you expect. But instead, just understand that it's wise to go out into the world and be loving and kind. And as you do so, just understand that because of the natural law, as you put out loving kindness, this is what's going to come back to you. Here's the Buddha talking and teaching his students. You might think that during the lifetime of the Buddha that he's like the only teacher, like the only game in town, so to speak. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, there were other teachers who were teaching too. And they were claiming that it was their teachings that led to enlightenment. But the Buddha knew that it was his teachings that led to enlightenment. So his students would sometimes come in contact with students from other teachers. And they would all talk. And they'd be like, hey, what is your teacher teaching you? Hey, what is your teacher teaching you? And they would kind of conversate. So the Buddha is giving guidance to his students that when he comes in contact with these other students, suppose they ask, meaning suppose these other students ask you, but what, friends, is the reason unarisen anger does not arise and arisen anger is abandoned? You should answer, liberate the liberation of mind by loving kindness. For one who attends carefully to the liberation of mind by loving kindness, unarisen anger does not arise, and arisen anger is abandoned. This, friends, is the reason unarisen anger does not arise, and arisen anger is abandoned. So this unarisen anger, what this is right now in your mind, you have a deeply rooted container. It's called a mental object of ill will. Right now, you might not be angry. You're just sitting here listening to somebody talk. But if somebody does something and triggers one of your cravings, triggers one of your desires, your expectations, that anger, that ill will that is in that mental object, that deeply rooted container, it will arise. But right now it hasn't arisen. But you have unarisen anger in your mind, meaning you have anger in your mind, but it just hasn't arisen right now. It's only a matter of time if you go out there and you start interacting in the world that your anger is going to arise about something. And this is because of your craving, desire, attachment, but also this mental object of ill will that's deeply rooted in the mind. So the Buddha is saying the way to ensure that that unarisen anger does not arise is loving kindness meditation. Ultimately, if you practice this close enough, you'll break up that unarisen anger, you'll break up that mental object of ill will, and you'll uproot it out of the mind. That's part of the purification of the mind, making your way to enlightenment, is to purify the mind of all these unwholesome qualities. And one of those unwholesome qualities is the anger, hatred, and ill will, this deeply rooted container. And there's others as well. And then this arisen anger, that's probably easier for you to understand. That's like any anger that's already up in your mind and you're currently angry or frustrated. The way to get rid of that is loving kindness meditation. So when you learn this, if you get to a point where your mind's angry, you're having a conversation with your mom and you're noticing all this anger coming up, just step away, go do some loving kindness meditation, and you'll see that you can restore your calmness and your composure, and you can get rid of that anger out of your mind. But you're going to need to develop this as a practice. It's not like you can learn it today and then 6 months from now you're going to do it and it's going to instantly eliminate your anger. That's not the way it is. You need to consistently be working with this meditation to be able to eliminate your anger and then go out into the world and be loving and kind. So what I suggest people do is that they do loving kindness meditation in the morning. Because if you build up your loving kindness in your mind in the morning, when you go out into your day-to-day life, you can be loving and kind with the people around you. Okay, so I'm going to teach you this loving kindness meditation. But before I do, I'd like to give you an opportunity to ask any questions on the things that I've shared so far. Maybe you've heard something that you're maybe need some clarification on, you need some insight on. You're welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. Remember here, if you could use the microphones, and online, if you could put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you could raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. And if you get a microphone, you can just keep it with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share your microphone. So does anybody here or anybody online have questions? I think Rona has a question. I can see it brewing in her mind.
Thanks, David. I've got one question. It just happened this morning, and yesterday I was reading news about some like celebrity scandals. It's mainly about those institutional oppression against women, that's lying and doing unfair things for minors, for women, and like during those times, I could not control myself from not being angry, not blaming the guy, the system, the institute for being unfair, for being unwholesome. Like I don't even know them, but that kind of things would make me feel very angry. And so far, my coping strategy is to stay away from news, but I don't think it's sustainable, because at some point of life, I would read them here and there, and I would hear people talking about those things, and I'm trying to figure out what is a smart way to this kind of anger.
Okay, so you're right that those things aren't causing your anger. It's not those things that's causing it. It's the mind craving for the world to be a certain way. The Buddha refers to this as craving and worry for the world, that you're wanting the world to be a certain way. Now, yes, it's wonderful when everybody's treated fairly. That's absolutely wonderful, right? And we should always aspire for that to occur more and more. But it's when your mind's longing and yearning for it, and you're wanting it, and you're expecting it, that's when you don't get it. Your mind gets angry or frustrated. So the way that you eliminate an attachment is you need breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. You've learned that, I think, in the different classes where you're training your mind to let go. You need that whole eightfold path. But also, when you're eliminating an attachment, you need to distance yourself from what the mind is longing and yearning for, training the mind to let go. But then ultimately, something like the news, you can integrate it back into your life. So getting away from the object that the mind is experiencing, the triggering, is actually really helpful. So you might decide to go 3 months, 6 months, even a year without looking at the news. And this can be really helpful for you. And when your mind gets away from craving for the world to be a certain way, then you might decide to kind of integrate the news back into your life. And what you do is you kind of watch it for 5 minutes. So say you've been away from it for multiple months, or maybe even a year. So now maybe you watch it for like 3 to 5 minutes. And now you put it down and you walk away, and you don't watch it for like 2 or 3 days. And then you see like, oh, the mind's pretty calm. So now you watch it for maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 minutes, and then you put it down and you walk away for 2 or 3 days. And you're like, okay, the mind can take that. And you kind of slowly integrate it back in like this, or maybe you build it back up to, however amount of time that you watch the news on a daily basis. But now you're doing it without craving, without wanting the world to be a certain way. And you understand that in some situations, people are going to be fair and people are going to treat everybody equally. But in other situations, they're not. And this is impermanence, that the world is impermanent. But as long as your mind is craving permanence, you'll be frustrated, agitated, annoyed in those situations. So you'd like to distance yourself from it, train your mind to let go through the breathing mindfulness meditation, the generosity, and everything else. And then you can slowly start integrating it back in. And this is a very common one that people have.
Because this sounds like the news for me is the snake, the spider for different people, that kind of fear in me.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'll try to practice that detachment and trying to fix my mind with loving and kindness and generosity mindset before I integrate it back.
Yeah, that's wise.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions here or online? Yes, sir.
Okay. specifically for loving kindness. I've done these meditations before. This is the one that, when you said this, I want to run out the door, because for some reason this just never really hits. There's something between like goodwill for all beings versus sort of an unaffected, non-judgmental awareness for the same beings. Those are, for me, those are two distinct categories of mind. Mm-hmm. And one of them is much easier than the others. I mean, just sort of cycling back to Rona's question in a way, like there would be a difference for me between saying, you know, you look at the news and it's sort of a, not my circus, not my monkeys, unaffected, you know, I don't dislike this, but I don't like this, just non-judgmental, versus what I've always understood meta-awareness is being more of an active process of, you know, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free, more of an active hoping that these monkeys and these circus have the best monkeys and circus possible. It's not a very clear question. I think that, do you see where I'm sort of going at, is the distinction between like non-judgmental, unaffected attention versus an active goodwill, how I understand loving kindness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'll help you. So loving kindness is a mental state that you're cultivating. Whether you put action behind it or not, that's a separate question. What you would like to be able to do is cultivate the love and the kindness within the mind. And oftentimes there are actions that follow that, but that's not what loving kindness is. It's not the action part. What loving kindness is the mental state that you're cultivating within the mind. So now, as you go through the world, you can be loving and kind with all beings around you. But whether you choose to do any particular action because of your loving kindness, that's a whole nother question. You would like to get to the point where you have nothing but love and kindness within your mind. And what this meditation is going to do is it's going to essentially rewire your mind so you can be loving and kind with the people around you. Because right now, if somebody meets your expectations, you can probably be happy and friendly and polite in those situations. But if they're not meeting your expectations, you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards them. And in this situation, it's only damaging your relationships. So you would like to get to the point where you understand that people are going to do things differently than you. And that's normal. That's impermanence. And you don't have to hate them just because they do things differently. And you don't even need to be annoyed. You don't even need to be frustrated. But because of the mind's cravings, it will get frustrated. It will get annoyed between now and enlightenment. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience that. So this is a rewiring of your mind so that now in your mind, when you're doing this loving kindness meditation, you can go out into the world and be more loving and more kind. I'll give you some examples here. So during my life, I grew up with my mom, of course, and I had a lot of resentment and hostility in my mind towards my mom because I had certain expectations and I wanted her to be a certain way. And she wasn't that way. And I always wanted mom to change. And I always got bitter and harsh and hostile towards her when she wasn't the way that I expected her to be. And it was only a matter of time before mom and I got into a room, fireworks would go off, right? Mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and she'd throw it around the room. I'd pick up the rubber ball of anger and throw it around the room. Next thing you know, we got all these rubber balls bouncing around the room, right? Well, I decided to change and I decided to start doing this meditation and practicing all the other teachings of the Buddha. And as I did, I transformed my mind. As long as I was sitting back wanting mom to change and I thought this was the way that things were going to get better in our life, things never changed. Things only got worse. But when I wised up and I had more wisdom, I realized I needed to change. So I started training my mind and transforming my mind. So now when mom was bitter and harsh and hostile, when she picked up that rubber ball of anger, I just watched her roll to the corner. I wasn't bitter and harsh and hostile back. And it took me many times of this before mom realized that it was her mind that was being angry and harsh and bitter. It wasn't my mind. So where we would be on the phone, for example, in the past when she would be bitter, harsh, and hostile, I would be bitter, harsh, and hostile right back. But now things changed. When mom was being bitter, harsh, and hostile, because of me doing my loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in day-to-day life, when mom was being bitter, harsh, and hostile, I would say things like, Mom, I know that I've been really angry with you in the past, but I'm choosing not to do that anymore. I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what it is that you just shared, what you just said, and we'll talk another time, Mom. I love you. Bye-bye. Right? And we wouldn't talk sometimes for 2 or 3 months, 6 months. And then we would talk again. It would be a few months of everything would be great. And then she would be bitter, harsh, and hostile. And I'd say, Mom, I love you so much. I really prioritize us getting to a better place in our relationship. And I realize I did some really unwise things in the past. And I'm sorry for that. I'm going to get off the phone, let you think about what you just said, and we'll talk another time, Mom. I love you. So in the past, when she was bitter, harsh, and hostile, and I was bitter, harsh, and hostile back, everything just kept exploding. But now I did something different. I put out loving kindness towards mom. So when mom was being bitter, harsh, and hostile, there wasn't bitter, harsh, and hostility going back, because that just keeps the rubber ball bouncing around. Instead, when she was being bitter, harsh, and hostile, I would be loving and kind back. And that's what allowed me to diffuse within my own mind any kind of anger, hatred, and ill will. And then ultimately she ended up cleaning up her mind as well. That the last probably 10, 15 years of her life, maybe even 20, we didn't have any hostility, any anger, any frustration in our relationship whatsoever. And it just took time for me to first transform my mind and then for her to do the same thing. So it's your loving kindness meditation isn't to change other people. That's not what you're doing here. What you're doing is you're cultivating your mental state so that now when you're around people, you can be loving and kind with the people around you. And that's what's going to transform your relationships and transform your life.
Okay, I've got that. That example. So the dichotomy that I was trying to draw, actually, from what I heard you say, isn't really there. If she picked up this rubber ball and threw it, you didn't have to love the fact that she did that or feel anything towards that ball. It was actually more of a non-judgmental. She picked up the ball because of events led to that, and she threw it, and that was just what was happening.
Yes. What unconditional love is, or true love is loving someone as they are, unconditionally, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. So I can disagree with someone's choices and decisions while still loving them. Right? So I can disagree that mom did certain things, but I can still love her as a person, meaning I would like to see her be well. But at the same time, I understand her wellness is her responsibility. It's not my responsibility for her to be well. She's responsible for her own wellness. So when we have love and kindness for all beings, it means that we have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. We love them unconditionally. Because what we think love is in the unenlightened state is actually craving, desire, attachment. It's, hey, I meet you. Like, let's just talk about like a life partner. You meet somebody, you're physically attracted to them. Maybe you're attracted to their finances. Maybe you're attracted to them intellectually. Maybe their social status. You're like, wow, I really like this. This person's meeting all my expectations. And you might even get to a point in the relationship where you guys tell each other, I've fallen in love with you. And you're like, oh, I love you too. I've fallen in love with you. We're now in love, right? And we say, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy, right? That's not actual love. I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy. This isn't love. This is, you're meeting my expectations. You're doing everything I want you to do. And as long as you do everything I want you to do, I will say I love you and I will function like I love you. But as soon as you stop doing things my way, I don't love you anymore. You might have been in conversations like this where somebody said this to you, or you said this to somebody else, where you say, I have fallen out of love with you. I can't be with you anymore. I have fallen out of love with you. What happened was at the beginning of the relationship, they were meeting your expectations. They were doing everything you wanted. And by the time you got deeper into the relationship, they weren't meeting your expectations anymore. And that's where you said, I don't love you. This isn't love. This is selfishness. This is, if you do things my way, I will say I love you. And I will function as if I love you. And I will do things that appear as if I love you. But when you stop doing things my way, all bets are off. We're done. I can't be with you anymore because you're not doing it my way, right? This is craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. But what you would like to get to with loving kindness meditation and the wisdom of what love is where you understand that everybody is going to do things differently, and that is okay because that is impermanence. That's their choices, that they're choosing to do those things. And you don't have to hate them because they do things differently than you, right? You can love the person while disagreeing with the choices and decisions that they make. If we can only love people who do things our way, there's only one person in the world that you can love, because there's only one person in the world that's going to do things your way all the time. Do you know who that person is? Who's the person that's going to do things your way all the time? You. Right? And you might even have difficulties loving yourself sometimes, right? So if your criteria for love is they have to do it my way, then you can only love one person. It is yourself. And you might even have a hard time doing that. So you need to separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, where you understand that people will make unwise decisions, and that's okay. That's their choice, and they're going to experience the results of that. But when you have ego in your mind, when you have arrogance and pride and boastfulness, you'll think your way is the right way, and everybody else is doing it the wrong way, right? And now you'll think everyone else is doing it the wrong way, and I can't be with these people because they're not doing it my way, right? So you got to get rid of that ego too, and understand that there's more than one right way to do things in the world. It's not just your way. Your way isn't the only right way. So part of that loving kindness is having this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And part of people being well is not putting your expectations on people. Because when you are over here practicing this, what we might call conditional love, which isn't actually love, but we might call it conditional love, that if you meet my conditions, I will say I love you. But if you stop meeting my conditions, I don't love you anymore. That's not love, but let's just call it that. Over here, if you're practicing conditional love, when someone's not doing things your way, you might step into their life and try to put expectations on them and control them to do it your way. Your parents might be doing this to you. They might be trying to control you to do things their way, right? There's probably true love in there, but it's being polluted with their cravings, desires, attachments. They're wanting you to be a certain way, and they think that they're going to get happy if you are a certain way. And you might be doing this to other people. When boyfriends, girlfriends, people like this, you might be putting your expectations on people and trying to control them to do things your way, thinking that that's what's going to lead to your happiness. But that's not going to lead to permanent happiness, because as long as those people are doing things your way, you'll be happy. But when they stop doing it your way, you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed, and they're not going to do it your way permanently. So you're essentially sabotaging your ability to have wonderful relationships if you keep putting these expectations on people and trying to control people to do things your way. So part of loving people as they are is not putting expectations on them or trying to control them or force them to do things your way. Stepping back and letting everybody make their own free will decisions and understanding that their decisions are affecting them, and you don't have to allow their decisions to affect you. So you're going to be around people who make decisions differently than you. And if you can only be happy when people make decisions your way, you're going to have less and less and less and less people who you can be around. Because when you have friends, it's only a matter of time before somebody does something differently than you. It's only a matter of time, right? And this is why you might be experiencing broken relationships over and over and over again. But when you get rid of your expectations and you're not wanting or trying to control people or pressure them to do things a certain way, you can love everybody. You can love everyone, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Okay, so this meditation is to transform your mind so that now when you're around your mom or your dad or your brothers or your sisters or other people, you can be loving and kind in all situations. And now you can improve your relationships because you're not putting your expectations on people and trying to control them. You're not being bitter, harsh, and hostile towards them. You just understand you have a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. I can disagree with their choices and decisions while still loving them as a person. Does that help you guys? Yeah. Okay. So we have a question here on Zoom. Rachel's asking, did Rahula and the Buddha's family reach enlightenment? The answer is yes. Rahula got to enlightenment during the Buddha's lifetime. His wife got to enlightenment during his lifetime. His stepmother, which was actually his aunt because his real mother died when he was like 7 days old. His cousins and brother-in-laws and people like this. Tons of people were getting to enlightenment during the lifetime of the Buddha. Any other questions that you guys have? Anything you'd like to know about what we've been talking about so far? Remember, for those of you guys online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Yes, sir.
Thank you, David. Wait. Hello, thank you, David. So, yeah, I understand what you said, that we don't put our expectation on others, and that can give us like good relationship. So now I'm curious about like the good speech or great speech, like the in front of the part. And because before this course, this is my wife, we have an argument, and she had some kind of like expectation on me. She wanted me to sing like a public news in a good way. And I understood that was love because she wanted me to be good. And I also can feel like that's kind of like my direction to be good there. But still, I can feel like her expectation in that part. So I didn't respond so well. Yeah, because that make like a conflict or an argument. So I'm curious about is there any good way for me to respond well with this like loving kindness? Yes.
Sure. Can you help me understand, what did your wife want? I didn't quite hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let her speak. Good idea.
So,
very good.
Yes, we were discussing about a social event, and because I learned Buddhism back in China, and I can say I am Buddhist, and I want him to behave or respond to the news to some way to show some basic respect for human life. But because the news is about a car accident, happened and 3 people died because of the accident, and some people blamed the car company for the accident because their car isn't safe enough, and because he's a big fan of the company, and he thinks that maybe the family of the dead people should respond in a more rational way. But I think because it's their family's life, and it's normal, and I can totally understand them, and I think maybe he should show more respect and compassion for them. Yes.
Okay. Do you see how when that microphone went out and it didn't work, you didn't get angry, you didn't get frustrated?
Yes.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Because that microphone is impermanent. It doesn't always work. Because of impermanence, it's sometimes going to work and it's sometimes not. So this is the same thing that you're going to need to do with your husband, that you understand that you think of things in one way and he thinks of things in a different way, and that's okay. But as soon as you want him to be the same way as you, that's where you'll get frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So since he asked the question, I'll help him. But I just was interested to make sure that you saw that, right? Because you didn't get angry about that microphone, and you need to get to the same point where you realize he's not going to do things the same way as you.
It's a microphone.
Yeah, think of him like a microphone. Yeah, he's a microphone. But your way isn't the right way, right? And his way isn't the wrong way. It's just that's the way you chose to respond. You think of that news in one way, and he's going to think about it in a different way, and that's okay. right? And you can just love him, meaning have a genuine interest in seeing him be well without expecting him to react to this news in a certain way. Okay. And then for you, when your wife might do this, when she puts expectations, or anybody, not just her, anybody puts expectations on you, you would like to not respond to it. You can just walk away from it. Just let it go in one ear and out the other. Because as long as you take those expectations and you adopt it into your own mind, now you're adopting her expectations of how she wants you to be. And now you're going to feel pressured and controlled. Instead, just walk away. Just smile. Just walk away. No need to respond to it
but
at
she
all.
asked me to go back.
What's that?
I try to leave the room, but she asked me to go back because we have a deal. Like if we work bad or like we work out, I will have a fine like 1,000. So I go back.
Okay, so her wanting you to be in that conversation, that is her craving, her desire, her expectation. She's holding on to you. But if you understand the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, the first factor is to speak at the proper time. What it means to speak at the proper time is 1, you don't interrupt people when they're talking. That's important. The second aspect of speaking at the proper time is making sure your mind, it's the proper time to talk. Because if you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're agitated, it's not the proper time to talk, and this conversation is going to blow up. The third aspect of speaking the proper time is making sure the other person's mind, it's the proper time to talk. Because if they're angry or frustrated or agitated, it's not the proper time to talk. So as soon as someone starts putting expectations on you and they're getting angry and frustrated, it's not the proper time to talk, walk away. And the more angry they get by you just choosing to walk away, let that be confirmation for you that you're making a wise decision, because they're attached in that situation. They're craving and desiring that conversation and for you to be in that conversation. And when you're walking away, they're getting angrier and angrier and angrier, but their mind is causing that. Staying in the conversation isn't going to solve that. Their mind needs to learn how to let go and not to put expectations on you. So if you stay in the conversation, you're actually not helping the situation. You need to get to the point where you value this relationship so much that you're willing to walk away from the conversation and protect your peacefulness. Protect the peacefulness of your own mind and the relationship. But staying in the conversation, you guys are just going to get more angry, and then fireworks are going to go off. But when you step away from the conversation, let your minds calm down, now you can talk later, and that's when things will go better for you. The mic's not on.
Yeah, so that's what we did. So after 20 minutes walk from our hotel to here, our relationship started to be better. But I'm curious that in that like conversation, you say that I can leave. So is that like a good way to say that maybe I told her that it's not a good time to talk about it, so maybe we can talk about it later. So
yeah. You can do that, if your mind has the ability to do that, but oftentimes if you're frustrated, it's going to come, it's not the right time to talk, right? Like that's not talking gentle, right? So it's oftentimes better just to walk away. And then she can understand, or whoever else you're talking to is like, hey, you value this relationship so much, you're not willing to damage it by being bitter, harsh, and hostile. Here, it's not the proper time for your mind, and just walk away. And she's going to need to understand that you're doing that out of love, that you love her so much that you're not interested in damaging the relationship. Yeah, it's recorded too. So if you need to play it again, it's on YouTube. You can play it for each other again. Yeah, it's going to be painful when he walks away, but just understand he's not causing that pain. What's causing the pain is your mind is holding on to him and wanting him to be a certain way and be in that conversation. You need to let go and realize that he's his own being and he can choose to walk away, and that's okay. It's his choice. Okay, So let's move on to helping you guys understand how to do this meditation, and then we're going to actually do it together. So the way that we do loving kindness meditation is you're going to hear me start with some chanting, and you guys are welcome to join along in the chants. I actually have them in a laminated sheet over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to get them, and you can even hand them around to everybody if you like, because you're going to see the Pali chants on there, and you're going to see the English translations as well. Whenever we're doing chanting, this is to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks they would come together and they would recite his teachings in order to commit them to their memory, because they didn't have the technology to write things down during his lifetime. So they used chanting as a way to commit them to memory. So you can see that from the origins of chanting, there isn't anything mystical or magical about these chants. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony, or worship, or even a prayer or anything like that. That's not what chanting is. It was used purely as a learning tool and a device to remember the teachings. So when we're chanting, it's just today to help ease us into the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation. Then I'm going to guide you in a breathing mindfulness meditation. That first one that I showed you, where I'm going to teach you to focus on your breath, and when your mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go, and you bring your mind back to the breath. We're only going to do that for a short time, just to kind of prepare the mind. But then you're going to hear me come back in with these affirmations of things like, may I be peaceful. And when you hear me say that out loud, repeat that within your own mind on the out breath. And then you're going to hear me say, may I be safe. And then you repeat that on the out breath within your own mind. Then you're going to hear me say, may I be well. Same thing, repeat it on the out breath within your own mind. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. So we're going to start with I, because in order to have loving kindness, you need to have loving kindness for yourself. If you don't know how to be loving and kind for yourself, you won't know how to be loving and kind to other beings. So we start with I. Then we're going to move through these wider and wider rings. This here is just for learning, but you're going to hear me say things like, may mom and dad be peaceful. And you can say that within your own mind on your out breath. May mom and dad be safe, be well, and free of discontentedness. Remember, you're not trying to change mom and dad. You're not trying to get mom and dad to be any particular way, but instead you're transforming your mind so that now when you're around mom and dad, you can be more loving and kind in your relationship. And then I'm going to go through wider and wider rings. I'm going to probably do about 6 different rings. And then eventually I'm going to get to, may all beings be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. And you're going to do this on the out breath. Then after the loving kindness meditation, we're going to go back to breathing mindfulness just for a short time. And then we're going to come out with some chanting. And I'm going to guide you all the way through this. This is like a loving kindness sandwich. In the middle, you've got loving kindness. The lettuce and tomato, that's like the breathing mindfulness meditation. And then the bread holding it all together, that's the chanting. So I'm going to walk you guys through this all the way through. And remember, this meditation is to transform your mind to be more loving and kind so that you can go out into the world and be more loving and kind with the people around you. Okay? When you're doing this on your own, you're going to need to customize it. But what I'm going to do is give you general statements that apply to all of us. So we'll talk some more after the meditation. So if you'd like to join along in the chanting, feel free to do that. You can take whatever position you'd like in the seated position, or there's other positions that you can take as well. But I'm just going to do some chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then I'm going to come in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka คาสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable. In the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, neighbors, and co-workers all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang สามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. So once again, this is called loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's going to transform your mind away from anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, irritation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike towards others or towards this being who you are. I just did some kind of general affirmations that apply to all of us. But if you have someone in your life that you have anger and hatred and ill will for, you're going to need to customize this for that individual. So you're not trying to change that individual. You're trying to change your own mind and transform your mind to be loving and kind with that individual in mind. So if you have someone in your life named Bob that you have anger for, or Susie, or whoever, this person might be long in your past, someone that you maybe never even see again. They could even be dead. But if your mind is holding on to anger towards this individual, you're not going to be able to experience the peace and the joy that is the enlightened mind. So you might need to say, may Bob be peaceful. May Bob be safe, well, and free of discontentedness. So the way that some people like to do this is they'll do like a ring or two of people that they have loving kindness for. And then they'll do a ring or two of people that they're kind of more neutral about. You don't love them, but you don't actually hate them. You don't hate them, but you don't really love them. Maybe like a coworker or a neighbor or something like this. You might put some of them into your meditation. And then the last ring or two should be people that you do have anger towards, you do have hatred towards. And they might be in your meditation for a few weeks or a few months, and then eventually you might move them out because your mind doesn't have any anger and hatred towards them any longer. And now you might have other people that you move in. So since you guys heard that I grew up with a lot of resentment towards my mom, when I first started doing this meditation, mom was in there for like a good 6 months. Right? I had a lot of negative self-talk within my own mind as well. So I used to do myself quite a bit in these meditations, right? So mom was in there for a good long while. But then at other times, mom was not in the meditation, but there were other people that showed up in the meditation. One time I was in business and I was renting this property, and the landlord came in and got up in my face and threatened to kill me in front of my employees, in front of my customers, and all this stuff. He went into the meditation for about a week or so, right? Sometimes I'd be on my way to work and someone would cut me off in traffic and I get frustrated or agitated. That person would show up in my meditation because they didn't cause me to be frustrated or agitated. It was my own mind. I was craving for things to be a certain way. So I was May that person who cut me off in traffic this morning be peaceful, right? You're interested in not allowing your mind to grab on and hold on to any hatred or anger, ill will. As you're doing this meditation, you're not going to know each day how much anger and hatred you're wearing away. But when it's completely gone, you're going to know that. The Buddha gives a great analogy on this. If you have a digging tool with a wooden handle and you're digging with this wooden handle tool, each day you're wearing away wood from the handle. You're not going to know how much wood you're wearing away, but each day you're wearing away wood from the handle. When the handle needs to be replaced, you're going to know that. You're not going to know how much wood you're wearing away each day, but when the handle's completely exhausted and you need to replace it, you're going to know that. And the same thing is true about your anger, your hatred, and ill will. Each day, you're not going to know how much of it you're wearing away, but when it's completely gone, you're going to know that. So, for example, with my mom, when it had been 6 months, a year, 2 years, and I hadn't been any angry, any frustration, or even the slightest annoyance with mom, I knew that I had worn away the anger and hatred and ill will. But each day that I was meditating, I didn't know how much of it I was wearing away. So it's the meditation combined with going out into the world and being loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. That's what's going to improve the condition of your mind in terms of anger. You can't just meditate it away. You need meditation, but then you need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And that's where the Eightfold Path comes in. That's the core central teaching that the Buddha shares. It's going to help you to be able to completely transform your mind. I'm going to be teaching that next week for any of you guys that are going to be around, or if you'd like to tune in through the live stream. Next week, I have a course. It's called The Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment. This is a 5-day course from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. where I'm going to be teaching all the foundational teachings to help you get on the path to enlightenment. And there's no cost for any of the support that I provide you to be able to make your way to enlightenment. So whether it's books or audiobooks or videos or podcasts, classes, courses, retreats, or even personal guidance to sit down and talk with me privately, it's all available at no cost. So if you'd like to attend that course next week, you're more than welcome to. I have classes here on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday regularly each of those days at 9 a.m. in the morning. But then sometimes I teach courses and retreats at different times. And you can see that over on the calendar on the bulletin board. You can also see it on our website. If you go to buddhadailywisdom.com, you'll see all the classes, courses, and retreats that I share. And you'll even be able to see how you can schedule personal guidance. And you can even come talk to me after class if you'd like. Because for those of you guys that are just getting started on the path, or maybe you're considering getting on the path, I suggest you get a copy of this first book. And again, you can get it for free. You can download it from our website for free. You can take it and go print it if you like at your own cost. You can get it here at the temple by just reimbursing us for our printing costs, or you can get it on Amazon if you have access to Amazon. This first book of the book series is going to gradually walk you through how to develop your life practice to the point where you can gradually make your way to enlightenment. Because the teachings of the Buddha are here to help you to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is within your own mind. It's not the outside world. That's not what's causing your difficulties and struggles. I know that oftentimes people really believe this, that it's the outside world that's causing all your struggles and difficulties. If that was the case, the Buddha would have never been able to get to enlightenment, because he would have had to change the entire outside world. You can't change the outside world. There's 8 billion people in the world that are doing things differently than you every single day. And you're never going to be able to get all 8 billion of those people to do things your way. But you can train your mind. And when you train your mind, you'll be able to get to the point where there's nothing but complete peace and joy. And it's a permanent mental state that you'll never again experience any anger, sadness, frustration, or any of those other discontent feelings. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience those things. So if you'd like to get started on the path, I suggest you start with the first book. There's also the course next week, and there's other opportunities for you to learn as well, like Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So thank you all for coming in. Thank you all for being interested to learn and practice the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like help, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's here today or some other time. I'm always pleased to help you. So whatever you choose to do, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.